Hello, welcome to History Tea, a channel where I spill the tea on history. Today's video is going to be about the Radium Girls. The Radium Girls were women who worked in factories painting dials with radioactive radium and then contracted radiation poisoning after ingesting the paint. Now, you're probably wondering who was dumb enough to ingest radioactive radium, but the real question is, who was dumb enough to think that they could tell women that radium was completely safe and ask them to literally ingest it several times a day and think that they wouldn't get away with it? Men. That's the answer. Radium is a radioactive element that was discovered by Marie Curie. You know, just the first woman to ever win the Nobel Prize, and the first and only woman to ever win it twice, and she was the first and only person ever to win it in two different fields of science. And one of her wins was for discovering radium. Then came radioluminescent paint, invented by Sabin Arnold von Schottky. And I'm probably saying that wrong, but whatever. He invented it in 1903 and it started to be widely used by 1910. The women in the factories weren't painting with straight radium. They used a luminous paint called Undark. Real creative name, y'all. Undark was a mixture of radioactive radium and zinc sulfide. The U.S. Radium Corporation, originally called the Radium Luminous Material Corporation, see why they changed the name, extracted and purified the radium from carnotite ore from 1917 to 1926. Because U.S. Radium was a defense contractor, they used Undark to paint the faces of watches and other instruments for the military. So Undark saved America? I don't know. Undark was mined in various mines in Utah and out of the Paradox Valley in Colorado, my homeland. I don't know if I'm proud of that, actually. The U.S. Radium Corporation, or the USRC, was completely aware of the dangerous effects of radium and released information to doctors about the harm it could cause. Chemists working at the plants took precautions using masks, lead screens, and only handling the radium with tongs. Still, they told the women that it was completely fine. Supervisors told the women to use their lips to point the brushes because they would lose shape after a while. They had a routine called lip dip paint, which actually is quite catchy, but it's not a good thing. Because the women thought that the paint was safe, they would have fun with it, and sometimes paint their nails, or their teeth, or their faces, or even their clothes if they were going out after work, because they were trying to have fun. It was glow-in-the-dark paint. There was a war. It was like an early version of a rave. I don't know. And the women were told to use their lips to point the brushes because using a rag took up too much time, apparently. Obviously, the radium took effect after a while, but it's unknown exactly how many women died, because, wait for it, there was a cover-up. That's right, a cover-up. All these women were suddenly becoming anemic, which is basically just a low red blood cell count, and being diagnosed with necrosis of the jaw, which, get this, is literally your jaw disintegrating. So these women were picking pieces of their jaws out of their mouths. It was disgusting, and it was a horror movie, and no one wants that. And then these big boss men were like, oh snap, and started requesting that the doctors and dentists not release the research that they compiled, and they agreed. Sometimes the doctors would even go as far as to write the cause of death for the poor women that succumbed to the poisoning as syphilis to tarnish their reputation. So these men were out here knowingly poisoning these women, and then not only covering up their deaths, but dragging their names through the mud. Disgusting. Now, let's get to the real hot tea. Court. An employee of USRC named Grace Fryer decided that she was going to give US Radium what was come to them and sued. Yes, girl. It took her a whole 2 years to find someone with the nerve to take on the USRC, but in January of 1928, she got her day in court. Unfortunately, though, two of the women who were supposed to testify were bedridden, and none of the women could even raise their arms to take an oath because of the poisoning. 4 other women, though, joined Grace in the trial, and they ultimately became known as the Radium Girls. Their names were Edna Hussman, Albina Laris, Quinta McDonald, and Catherine Schwab. While the trials were happening in New Jersey, all the way over in Ottawa, Illinois, the employees of the Radium Dial Company were reading about the dangers of radium in the newspaper. Obviously, they were a little concerned for their health and safety. Stupid women, having a working brain. How dare they? Their bosses stayed calm and somehow convinced them that the radium was fine, and that the women in New Jersey were only showing signs of viral infections. Y'all. Employees of Radium Dial have been asking for compensation for medical and dental bills since 1927, but were denied. Which makes sense. I mean, that's a lot of medical bills to pay, and why should they have to pay for the poisoning that they knowingly caused? I mean... It wasn't until the mid-1930s that a suit was finally filed and brought before the Illinois Industrial Commission, or the IIC, as I'm going to be calling them from now on because that is a mouthful. By the time the women found a lawyer to represent them in 1937, Radium Dial had already closed and moved to New York. In the spring of 1938, the IIC ruled in favor of the women. Radium Dial, of course, was not happy with this and appealed over and over until the case was taken to the Supreme Court in 1939, where they decided to not even hear them out because the women had already won the case 8 times. When it comes to the Radium Dial Company, I guess I can't say this company did nothing to try and keep their employees safe, but they did the bare minimum. They gave the women physicals to determine their toxicity, but they never released the results to anyone, including the women, and if that ain't shady, I don't know what is. The women in Illinois also used the lip-dip paint method with their brushes. The company tried to replace the camel hair brushes, which were weak, with glass pens that came to a point, but the pens slowed down production, and seeing as they got paid per dial, they resorted back to the brushes. So that didn't help very much, did it? I'm really confused as to why this story isn't taught in school. I mean, these amazing women changed labor laws forever and saved so many lives. After the settlement, safety standards were changed and painters at Radium Dial were given protection against the paint. And in this case, led to so many experiments and scientific breakthroughs centered on radium. I mean, talk about this instead of teaching kids about the Declaration of Independence for the millionth time. Oh my god. In the end, Radium Dial had to pay each Radium Girl $10,000, which would be like $143,000 in 2017, and then an additional $600 per year and $12 a week for the rest of the women's lives. And on top of that, they had to pay their medical and legal bills. Maybe if y'all had just provided your employees with safety gear, you could have avoided all that. I don't know. Now, hold up. I'm gonna blow y'all's minds real quick. Radium wasn't just used to paint dials, and it wasn't just used as a paint. An ad for Undark from 1921 states that they also used it to paint house numbers, flashlights, the buckles of bedroom slippers, gas gauges, and many other things. I also found ads for products like Radithor, an energy drink, or Cure All, containing radium, and an ad for Radiodyne energy tablets. There were also beauty products like Though Radio, a cleansing serum, or Soap, from 1939, and a radium-based hair treatment promising permanent wave beauty from 1924. These people were nuts. I mean, radium was like what lead used to be. People insist on putting lead in everything and using lead paint everywhere, and now when you rent an older house, you have to sign something that warns you about it. People are crazy. And that's the tea on history. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you learned something new. Let me know what you liked or didn't like, but be respectful because I do have human feelings. So, if you like this video, let me know by clicking the thumbs up, and subscribe if you want. I don't care. I do care though, so please subscribe. Thank you. And Catherine Schwab.